Welcome to Think Alive. We're Sharon and Andy, just two people with a dream and a vision of restoring our traditional stone-built farmhouse in southern Spain, transforming it into a beautiful off-grid home and sharing our journey with you. Good morning everyone.
Welcome back to the Finca.
Yep, another beautiful day.
Yes.
A little bit of cloud today though, the odd white fluffy one, the nice clouds, but just gives us a little bit of shade and a bit cooler today, which is always welcome.
Still over 30.
Well, yes. Not as hot as it's going to be though, it's going to be boiling again at the weekend.
Yes, we're forecast to be 42, 43 degrees Celsius in a few days, which is pushing 110 Fahrenheit.
Oof.
So we're taking a little break from the kitchen
Yeah.
to get our outside bar done.
Yeah, we're going to carry on with this the old hen house that Andy's
Chicken shed.
been making good because it was falling down, new roof if you remember, and we've patched up all the walls. It's going to be our bar area for our lovely new courtyard.
Which we're standing.
And we want to run a little drinks fridge, so we've always got nice cold beer on tap.
Dedicated.
A dedicated drinks fridge. We've already got the big fridge freezer in the corral, our utility room. We've also got a wine fridge in the indoor bar area, but this is just going to be for nice cold drinks in the summer.
Yes, and it is. And it's going to have its own dedicated solar system. Hello, Alfie. The reason for that is our solar system that we've got works fantastically. We've had this fridge plugged in now for a few days. It copes with it very well. But come September, October, and we've not been unknown to have 40-degree temperatures in September.
No, but of course less hours of daylight.
So it puts a burden on our solar system that we don't need to have. No. And rather than increase the size of our solar system, because we've got all this stuff from a previous installation. If you remember,
we've got a one panel left over.
Charge controllers,
we've got charge controllers,
inverters.
Yeah, all from when we upgraded our system to the new super duper one we've got at the moment.
And we've been wondering what to do with them.
Yeah, we were going to sell them, but you know what? Nobody wants to buy second-hand stuff like that, just in case there's a problem. Obviously, there's no guarantee with it. So we thought we might as well use it.
We're going to use them.
Yes.
The only thing we're missing was a battery.
Yes.
And we've actually kindly been approached by a company called Lead Time, used to be Ampere Time I believe, offered to send us a battery to review and test.
Yeah.
So we thought, what a
absolutely perfect.
Perfect, so thank you so much Lead Time. We'll be having a look at that in a bit. And yeah, so we're going to have a completely independent bar area. It's going to have lights, fridge, it's going to get added to over the time, completely independent of the rest of the house. So with
its own solar system.
Yes, so should we get on with it?
Let's do it.
So because it needs quite a lot of work doing to it, still the walls still need finishing off inside and out, we're just initially going to go for a very simple system, a DC system to start off with, so we don't have to be putting inverters and things on the walls. Just as little as we can, just to make it function for a fridge and a light to start us off. Then we're going to add to it, we'll put our inverter and get some AC in there as time goes on. Plus, as we see how the panel performs, we might need to make an additional panel. We don't know that either. What are you doing, Alf? You've been a good boy. And we've gone for a 24 volt system. Why have we gone 24 volt? Well, two reasons really. The inverter that we've got is 24 volts, so that makes sense. Plus, using 24 volt rather than 12 volt, your amperages are lower. Watts divided by volts gives you amps. Obviously, if your device is a bigger number, the amps are a smaller number, which means you need smaller cables, etc., etc. Makes it a bit easier to do. You could do it quite easily on a 12 volt. You just need to run bigger cables and stuff like that. But in our case, we're going with 24 volts. So currently we've got an extension lead plugged into the workshop there. It's not ideal. I was going to run, like I said before, cables, proper wiring into there, but we can save a burden on our solar and have its own one. The solar panel's going on the roof here. Two reasons for that. One, it's a perfect spot for it, close to where it needs to be, and It never rains here, very rarely, but it always seems to do it when we're having a barbecue. So I'm stood here doing whatever, barbecuing, and I'm getting wet because this isn't waterproof, because it's just bamboo. So by putting the solar panel, big solar panel, above there, it's going to keep me dry. It'll probably never rain again when we're doing a barbecue, but that's the option for it. So the first thing we're going to do is get it mounted up here. Right, so the panel is roughly 1 metre by 2 metres, so just slightly under, and I'm going to mount it to these 2 beams here. Another reason we're putting it up here, we won't be able to see it because they're not the prettiest things to have in your courtyard. So what I need to do first off is make 2 brackets, attach them to the panel, the width of these 2 beams, so we can just simply screw it down from the top. More of that in a minute. So this is the panel in question. It's a very dusty one. We'll give it a wipe off before we put it off. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to fix 2 brackets, 2 at the top and 2 at the bottom. Then I'm going to mount it onto the roof with. On the back of the panel there's a plate, if you'll focus, that gives you all the specifications. Make sure it matches up to your charge controller, gives you the amps, the voltage. So if you run them in parallel or series, you can add them up and make sure you've got the right size controller for it. Right, and I've got some off-cut scrap angle. I'm literally just going to cut in half basically to make the brackets to fix to the panel. So I'll get that done first. We need to cut them in half, drill a hole in each side, one to fix to the panel, one to fix to the roof. So I'll get that done first. Right, so I'm just using M8 bolts to bolt the brackets of the panel, and I'm using these massive lag bolts to bolt the panel to the roof. The reason they're so long is because I'm going to put a sleeve on the outside, a spacer, and probably about that long, to lift the panel above the roof slightly to ensure we get a good airflow underneath it. That's 8mm as well, so I'm just going to put an 8.5mm clearance hole through both sides of the bracket with a bit of cutting fluid as always, and away we go. One down, 7 to go. So the next thing to do is to mark my brackets on the panel. I've measured the 2 beams across and worked it out for the panel where the holes want to be, which is on there, and the same from the other side. That's it. And that side, and using the same size drill bit, we're just going to run these through. It's pretty easy through aluminium. I'll get the rest of them done. Then simply bolt the brackets onto the panel. And get them back nut on. So then the lag bolts will go through there, like that. I'm going to space them up to lift them off to give it some clearance so we get airflow under it. I'm actually putting the panel horizontal. If it doesn't produce enough, I will tilt it up in well, at a later date if I need to. I don't think I will because of the power demands we've got at the moment. and plus by having it horizontal, it won't be seen either, which is another part of the plan. So I'm just going to cut some spaces out of this metal tube, determine the length I want, and it's nearly ready to go on the roof. So there we go, I've just cleaned up the scaggy ends on the angle grinder, so we're nearly there. The only other thing I want to do before we throw it on the roof is extend the wires. It says on the panel, max fuse rating 15 amps. I've got an inline fuse there that goes on the POS, that's the POS. Oh, get him in we go. And then 2 lengths of cable that should be ample to run into my little room, which I'll stick on in a minute, but I'm carrying around dragging. We'll plug them on when we got them up there. So before I go any further, I'm going to have a look at the battery. See what we get, see what's involved. It's a 24 volt, 100 amp. Should give us 2,400 watts. Being that we're currently using 500 a day, should give us a good 4 or 5 days of autonomy should the weather be bad. Let's see what we've got in here then. So it comes with, looks like, comprehensive instructions. That's who they are, by the way. Looks like comprehensive instructions. Instructions in German, instructions in English, product manual. The battery's got its own BMS, battery management system, which means basically it controls itself. It won't let it charge if it's too cold. It'll, you know, if it's too hot as well, it'll keep it charged at its optimum charge. So basically you don't need to do anything, just set the charge controller up to the parameters that are I'm sure they'll be in here. It's 100 amp, 25.6 nominal volts, 2,560 watt hours of power stored in it. It's got a 100 amp battery management board, maximum discharge current of 100 amps, with a startup load of 280 amps and continuous power of 2,560 watts. Fantastic. More than 4,000 cycles, which is, what's that, 12, 13 years or something like that. Excellent. So I'll have a flick through this and see what we can learn, and then we'll have a look at the battery. So yeah, everything you need to know in here. You can run 2 in series to give 48 volts at 100 amps, or you can run 4 in parallel, 24 volts to give 400 amps. It works out the same ampere hours, and it's also got, which is quite important, the charge voltage relevant to remaining battery capacity. These batteries can generally be charged, it says recommended disconnect at 1%, so you can actually effectively, unlike lead acid and other batteries, you can use the full capacity of the battery. Brilliant, but everything you need to know is in there. It's even got a fault diagnosis section, more detailed on connection and wiring. So anyway, let's crack on. It's got a 5-year warranty, even better, that's good. Hello Alfie, Alfie's helping with a 5-year warranty as well. Trying to get it out of the box, but young Alfie has made it home and is settled in there having a wash. Come on Alfie, come on you. You're very sharp. He's very sharp. I'm going to take the battery out of the box and then you can have the box, can't you? Go on, you sit on there a minute. See if we can get this out of here. Right, he's very happy in the empty box now. What is it about cats and boxes? Anyway, back to the battery. Extremely well packaged. Good strong box. Foam insulation in there. Wonderful. And in this little bag comes the terminal connectors, which go in the terminals at the end here. 2 nice handles on it to carry it. It looks very nice actually. We're pretty excited to get this done. It's going to be absolutely wonderful. So I think yeah, the next job is to get the panel up there. And just before we get into it, I should have mentioned it's an LFP, a lithium iron phosphate battery. all the specifications. I've just been looking through the manual. It gives you voltages for charge, bulk, boost, etc. Discharge, disconnect, recommended thing, every setting that you could possibly need for your charge controller. So yeah, wonderful. I'm looking forward to get this done. Let's do it. So the battery's going to sit on this shelf. As I said before, I still need to work on the walls underneath, so I'm going to put the battery on here. I'm going to put the charge controller on the wall. We're just going to use a simple charge controller for now, and then the wires are going to come through somewhere up there where the level of the roof meets this roof, the level of the other roof, so they'll be undetectable. I can then still carry on working on these walls underneath, and then when we finally come to the next bit, I can just pop it out and do that. But yes, it's going to be just a basic temporary setup that's going to power our fridge, which is just down here. Excellent. So next job, I think, I'm going to put the panel up last because it's going to be live in the sun and we don't want to bother covering it. So I'm going to get the charge controller on the wall, work out where it wants to be, where the wires are going to go, and there, get that done next. So the wires for the solar panel are through. I've had to put them in some conduit up on the top to protect them from the sun. The charge controller is going to go on the wall here. That's going to connect to the battery. I'll put this board up. Again, just temporary because we're probably going to have to take it out and move it at some point in the future. But for now and for the rest of the year, because we're not doing anything until winter, because look at us dripping already. All done is thread a few wires. So we'll carry on. So the next job is to get the charge controller on the wall. About there, so it's nice and easy to reach. That's how you look at the back of my head. There we go. One and another one in here. We're just using a PWM charger at the minute. We've got an MPPT which will go in later, but for now, for speed, for convenience, we're using this one. Right, okay, so charge controller's in. Trying to cut through these wires. I'm using 16mm squared cable, which should take about 93 amps, I believe. The charge controller is only 60, and I'm putting a 40 amp fuse in it, because we're not going to get anywhere near that with that panel that we've got. If I need a big one in the future, I can change it, but it should be fine for now. So the fuse holder's in. This means I can, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to connect the battery to the charge controller, set the charge controller parameters, then disconnect the battery, and then we can get the solar panel on and connect that. You should never connect a solar panel that's going to be immediately under load. The only load it's got is the battery charging. If we disconnect the battery, it's got no load. So wire into there onto the battery terminals, negative up by the side of it, and get it done. Right, so that's in, just a couple of ties on it. So it's a bit temporary, just to keep them tidy. It's disconnected. These wires are different thicknesses, they're not, they're both 16mm cable, just from different manufacturers. One must have a thicker insulation thing on it. Right, so if we switch this on now, it should come to life. There it is, 24 volts, 60 amps, U1.5, whatever that means. It's telling me already that the battery's at 26.2 volts, which is, I think, is about 50% capacity. According to their chart, it's not under any load. What I'm going to do now, I'm going to program this to the parameters detailed in the little book, so it does exactly what it's supposed to do and charges it correctly with the correct voltages and etc. So I'll get that done. It says all charge, bulk, boost, etc. All at 28.8 to 29.2, so I'm just going to set them all at, right, it'll float will be 28.4 then, because that's as high as it goes. Low voltage disconnect is 21.6, so we'll just adjust that. 21.1, 21.6, yeah. Low voltage reconnect 24.8, all you do is just scroll through, selecting each one's. Right, 24.8. Next, user setting. That's it. Right, we should be good to go there. So absorbs 29 volts, floats 28.4. Might be a little tad lower. Oh, it says recommended charging voltage there, 28.4. Right, perfect. We're good. Yes, so we're actually making this up from stuff we've got lying around. If you're building a system like this for your own bar, for a camper van, for a boat, you could possibly match them up a bit better. We're only actually going to be drawing 40 watts, 50 watts from this for the fridge. 40 amps, which this fusel trip at, is just about a kilowatt on a 25 volt battery, so we're well within for what we need. But again, if you wanted to use more, you'd buy more specific equipment, more suited, better suited to what you've got. We're just using what we've got. Just shut the door so Jessie doesn't escape.
Yes.
It's time for the solar panel.
Needs a bit of a clean.
But before we do that, because it is hot, it does, we're going to have an ice cold drink, maybe not a beer at this stage of the day, out of our super fridge. We should have mentioned about the fridge actually. I think I did in another video.
I think probably Sunday's video, yeah.
Sunday, but it runs off mains, 12 volt or 24 volt, and so again it's perfect for use in a camper van or something. Yeah. And it cools apparently 50 degrees, we've not tested this, below the ambient temperature. So even when it's 40 degrees, it'll still go down to -10, so we still have ice cold beer later in the day. So let's get this out of the way.
Lovely.
Have a minute in the shade.
Yes.
We'll put links to all these in the description, by the way. How to clean a solar panel. Pour water on it, hit it with the spongy thing and then the squeegee. Job done. Right, since it's done, it's going on the roof. You ready?
Yeah.
Okay. I just watch these. Bracket over. Oh, that's it.
Not tall enough.
So it's not hang on a minute. Right. That's it. Move my ladders over it. Alright, alright. Cool. Right, we'll have a mess about, get it in position. Right, so all I've got to do now on my wobbly ladder is get these big lag bolts through, put the spacer on it, and then fix it to the thing. I can barely reach. I'm going to move this ladder, make it secure. That's it.
I'm not sure that's very safe. Crikey.
We're safe. Plus get it into the wood as well. This is not going to be easy. Come on, there we go. Right, the first one's in. All I've got to do now, oh, you can see that, so perfectly. It's lined up with my wood. So it's going in. One in, it's nearly all the way in. I'll get the other three in and then we'll sort of tighten them up after. Okay.
We've had to get the big ladders out for this side. The step ladders weren't big enough. Bless him, it's very hot work.
last one. Right, so the panel's on the roof. It's got a nice air gap underneath it. Let the air flow. It's pretty solid. So what we're going to do now, connect up these wires. The battery is disconnected, so when I connect the panel up, there will be no load taken from it. And then we're going to switch the battery on and see what we've got. Right, so I'm just going to connect. Come on, get it. My fingers. The solar panel wires to the charge controller before we connect them on the roof. Everything's still turned off. I've put the fridge into the 1220 or 24 volt outlet, as it is in this case, with its own fuse. I'll probably do something with that in the future, but it's all going to have to be moved about when we come to do this in the winter. But for now, it'll do the job. So he's just got to go in the neg, and he's got to go in the pos. Then we can connect the panel. Right, okay, so they're in. It's connected on the roof. The fridge is unplugged from the 240 because it defaults to 240 first, and plugged in via it should charge off this. So all we got to do now, turn the battery on and see what we got. It's not fizzing anyway, which is a good sign. Oh yeah, so it's showing 26.4 volts. It was 26.2 when it was resting, I think. 26.5 now. The panel's charging well. 34 degrees C, it says the battery's at. Whew. We've got 8 amps coming in from the panel, which is pretty good. 0.2 amps being used by something, I don't know what, because the fridge isn't even on, probably the control unit itself. Excellent. Right, so 26.6. It's actually 4:15 in the afternoon. The sun's 2 hours past its solar noon, and it's ripping into the battery. 6.7 amps. The battery will actually just draw what it needs and what it wants for its optimum charge as well. So let's switch the fridge on, see what happens there. 34 degrees C, I don't like that one. Right. I don't know if you can hear that, but it's working. Fantastic. Let's see what it's drawing. 7.7 amps coming in. It says no amps coming out of the battery. I'm not sure about that. Actually, it won't be using the battery because it'll be feeding directly off the solar panels. Right, we're using 1.7, so we've got 7.7 amps coming in, and the fridge is using 1.7 amps. I've just found that other setting there. I've never used this direct supply before. So it's running the fridge and still pulling 6 amps into the battery. Fantastic. Right, so up to 26.7 volts. I've just changed these as the temperature. Lovely. 202 watts is what's coming in from the panel currently. 3 watts is what's using the fridge because it's just clicked itself off. That's a total kilowatt hours where they'll put into the battery. That'll build up. I've just reset it, and that's the total kilowatt hours that have come out of the battery. Again, I've just reset that so we can keep an eye on what it does. That's it. All we've got to do now is get a light up here. Well, now we're going to put a light in here. Just a simple, it's a spotlight. Where's it gone? That's a spotlight we had. It was going to go on the back of a car, on the back of the truck, but we never used it, so we've got it. So we're going to put that up in here. It's 24 volts. I've just wired again into the POS neg side, the DC output from the thing. There's no fuse in it, so we can work on it safely. We're just going to route that up. On the POS, I'm just going to put a simple inline switch on it, and the neg will then go to the other side of the light. So I'll get that in and see if it works. So the light's in, it's got its own fuse. I suspect one day in the not too distant future I'll put like an automotive type fuse box up there. We can run all our circuits off, but for now it's like I say, it's going to come out at some point anyway, so it's fine. Lights in, can you see that? Do you want to operate it, pop it?
I will. Yay!
We've not secured it exactly yet because we don't know if it's going to be in the right place, so we've just cable tied it up.
Loose wires there, which we don't like, but they will go eventually once we're sure. As soon as it gets dark tonight and we can test it and see if it's pointing in the right direction, then this can all be tidied up.
Cool, but for now it's time for a nice cold beer, I reckon. What do you think?
Absolutely.
And our fridge is cold, it says 1 degree, -1 it says actually. Can you see that?
I don't know, not sure whether you
Take my
can see
word
that.
for it, so we're going to have one of them
Very
anyway.
cold.
And that's running off solar, off the new battery, off the panel and the new battery. Fantastic, so far so good. So thanks to Lead Time, we've got infinite cold beer technically.
Yeah.
Even though it's kind of did anyway, but independently cold beer.
Yeah.
So we will be updating you regular on the battery and its performance and how cold our beer is, which is now time for one, isn't it?
Absolutely. Thank you for watching, everyone. We'll see you on the next one.